Welcome to Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Its 4,500 residents think of their little mountain village as a paradise. John Denver thought so too. He immortalized the region in his famous song, "Take Me Home, Country Roads." Point Pleasant is located where the Ohio and Kanawha rivers meet, in a quiet setting that blends touches of history with still affordable family homes. Today, Point Pleasant is as peaceful a place as its name suggests. But it wasn't always so. In the 1960s, a series of frightening events occur. At first bizarre and disturbing, then suddenly tragic. The story begins when several villagers have close encounters with a semi-human flying creature. Eyewitness accounts put Point Pleasant on the map. It becomes one of the most visited spots in the United States for seekers of paranormal phenomena. It's been over 45 years since the first sighting, but it remains one of the great unexplained mysteries.
We kept the kids in at night. We didn't allow them out.
6 to 7 feet tall, gray in color, large wingspan, 10 to 12 foot wingspan.
7 foot tall with a wingspan of 50 feet with glowing red eyes.
6 feet tall with the big wings and the red eyes, because everybody says there's red eyes. Like, you can't miss that detail.
Those eyes, that's what held you. It was just a red. A lot of people says it glowed. I don't know about that. I just know it was a red like you never seen red.
One person thought it was a helicopter. It was so big. Another local guy here, he thought it was an airplane.
Other people described it as looking like a giant moth because it didn't have a head like a human. It was more in and it had moth-like wings and so forth.
Other people described it as, being very quick as far as flight. It would appear and then it would disappear.
My papa always said it was just a bird because he used to go out there all the time. But he said he saw something out there, so I'll believe him.
It had a heel like we do, a heel and a long foot out with toes and claws on the end of the toes. It had a neck like we do that holds a round type head. It had a nose like we do, and I saw 2 holes that you breathe out of.
In the mid-1960s, 100 people claimed to have seen the half-man, half-moth with huge glowing red eyes flying around the area. For 2 years, more and more eyewitnesses come forward. Peaceful Point Pleasant is never the same again.
Well, Point Pleasant, as it is today, is a very simple. It's a simple place. And back in the 60s, it was even more so. You had hardworking Americans, farmers, and people like that. They really didn't take stock into monsters or UFOs or anything like that. They worked long days and hard days, and they were down-to-earth, practical people that went to church on Sundays. This isn't something that they plotted or planned. It's just something that happened and they couldn't explain it. And even today, all these years later, it's still a mystery.
Some of those Mothman witnesses, became very, they suffered nervous breakdowns and mental issues and things. And totally different people as to what they were beforehand. Over the years, they never could come up with a viable answer as to what happened or what they experienced.
Now, a lot of people in the town getting thought messages, so they said, saying that something was going to happen. Some people were even having physical effects, like their eyes getting swelled up and red and so forth for no particular reason. In fact, I think a lot of people that had up-close encounters of this Mothman creature said that their eyes got inflamed and what have you.
It could have been like an angel of death or an omen. Like the personification of an omen coming to warn people that something terrible is going to happen.
Fear begins to grip the people of Point Pleasant. Some believe the creature is an omen, a premonition of catastrophe about to fall on their village and its inhabitants. And soon enough, that's precisely what happens.
When the bridge fell, it actually tilted to the right, came back up, and then just went down. That is, instead of a collapse like sometimes we see on TV or in pictures, the eyewitnesses said that it actually went to the side, then came back up and went down.
It's late evening, November 15th, 1966. What happens on this night gives birth to one of the most horrific legends ever recorded in American history.
We're two young couples up near the North Power Plant in the TNT area. That was a vacated, desolate area at one time during World War II. That was a ammunitions factory. That's how it got us named the TNT area. They were driving around up there about 11 o'clock at night. They came across what they thought was a man standing in the road in front of their car.
They noticed something standing next to the plant, which looked like a very large man in dark clothing or a cloak and what have you, and they noticed these two glaring red eyes.
Linda Scarberry was one of the witnesses, said that they were about size of baseballs, about 2 inches apart, and then she noticed wings flapped around on its back, and she said they reminded her of angel's wings. As the car got closer, she said the wings came out, and this creature or being or whatever ran into one of the vacant power plant buildings there called the North Power Plant.
And kind of spooked the ladies, and they picked up speed, and they noticed as they looked behind them that this thing was actually chasing them.
That's when this thing came over top of their car. They were doing 90, 95 miles an hour in this car coming back to town, and intermittently this thing would come over the car, then disappear, come over the car, and it chased them back into the city limits, and then it disappeared.
And they were thoroughly terrified, but they got home and told their story. And during this time that started the ball rolling on the whole Mothman legend, as it is, one of America's creepiest urban legends.
Immediately after the two couples saw this thing in the TNT area, they went to the sheriff's department. Now, the sheriff's deputies saw how upset they were. They knew that they weren't making this story up. They sat down and wrote down everything that they encountered. And then the police went up there to investigate. They started running regular patrols. This was on the 15th of November. On the 16th of November, Marcella Bennett and her family actually encountered this thing at a house up in the TNT area.
Marcella's corroborating evidence makes the community take notice, including her family.
I asked my sister what it looked like one day. I said, Marcella, I need to ask you, what does it really look like? Because I was there time after time, but never really got to experience it. And she said, you know what, Carolyn? She said, we were just getting out of the car. We were talking back and forwards over top of the car, not paying a lot of attention, not thinking about anything, and I heard something like shh, shh, shh. And she said, we turned around and looked, and it was trying to come through the doors, which they drove trucks and tanks and stuff through them doors, and said that the doors wasn't big enough. And I said, well, then how did he get out? And she said he went sideways and came through and flew over top of him. She said, when I looked up and seen them big red eyes, she said, we were out of there. I can't tell you what the rest of it looked like.
You can go right down the line through November. You know, there was all kinds of sightings after that. Then the police department started taking it a little more serious.
The official record of so many sightings marks a turning point. The residents of Point Pleasant start taking the reports seriously. Many believe something is living near the abandoned munitions plant, something beyond curious, a creature that might actually harm them, and it has a name.
The name Mothman was actually given by a news reporter during some of those press conferences in the early days of the Mothman sightings. People always ask, well, how did the name Mothman come about? At the time, in the mid-60s, as a little kid, I used to watch the Batman TV series, but there was also the Batman comic book series. There was a character in that comic book series called Mothman. And because people were describing moth-like wings and red eyes, that name Mothman stuck. Now, a lot of local people still to this day refer to it as the Big Bird.
Whenever the Mothman was first spotted, it practically covered all of our news areas. It was in the newspaper, big write-ups, and it was on the radio, TV, word of mouth. Everybody was talking about it. I mean, it was different. It was a piece of something that they had never experienced before. You kept your kids in at night, your little ones. You didn't let them out.
newspaper account came out of a big, large 6-foot bird with a large wingspan and red eyes were chasing cars in the TNT area, which caused a mass amount of people to head for the TNT area to see this massive bird that was out there chasing cars.
That's how the story grew. Even some of the news channels picked up on it. That's when everybody started coming to Point Pleasant, including John Keel.
The late author, John Keel, really spent a lot of time on this whole thing. He stayed there for several months, I believe, or years, doing research for his work. He took it as premonitions. And I believe that it was 2002 they came out with a film based on his book, The Mothman Prophecies.
John Keel specialized in writing about extraterrestrials and UFOs. The Mothman Prophecies was published in 1975 and chronicles Keel's extensive research and theories about the Mothman. He believed it was a creature from outer space.
When the Mothman was here, things that happened, and it was a little different, and people were scared because, you know, you're a little scared of what you don't know. And they didn't communicate with him, didn't know if he was going to hurt anybody. He didn't hurt anybody, but there was an animal killed, but it could have been a coyote. But you didn't know what was going to come up. And people was a little nervous.
During the Mothman sightings here in Point Pleasant, they would not let some of the children out for recess because the people didn't know what this thing was. They thought if it was a big bird, it could come down and pick up a little kid and take off with them. So that's how paranoid some people were when all this was going on.
It was called The Bird, where a location where a lot of people were seeing the Mothman, known as The Bird, was the North Paraplant, and it was generally known as the Birdhouse. I think it was tore down in the early 90s. It was deemed a health hazard, and they did tear it down, which is kind of a shame because it would be like a great landmark.
We went up there looking for the Mothman all the time. Don't know what we'd have done if we'd have found him. I wished I could have said, yes, this is what it looks like. But, you know, it was something to do, and you're curious. And we went, but we had carloads. He wasn't going to come out when we were there.
Everybody wants a glimpse of the Mothman, be it human, animal, or alien. There are as many local skeptics as believers, but the urban legend grows. And so do the questions. Where did it come from? And why did it choose the munitions depot? What happens next raises even more serious questions. The people of Point Pleasant, West Virginia are used to seeing peculiar apparitions, but nothing like the mysterious and fearsome Mothman. Soon after it appears, other weird things begin to happen.
During this whole period, in 1966 to 67, people were reporting strange lights in the sky, so we have the UFO connection. That makes it even more stranger than it already is.
There was a lot of UFOs in the area at that time. Did I believe it? No. But my sister and I would be going to Buffalo, and we'd come out and look, and there'd be beautiful lights in the sky, and we'd say, well, the UFOs are out tonight. But did I believe it? No, I didn't. And one landed in my brother's backyard. So then I believed it. He said it was the brightest thing he ever seen. And you couldn't even look at it, it was so bright. And it just picked back up and soared back off just like it come in, no sound.
UFOs, Mothman, and strange lights in the night skies over Point Pleasant begin to worry the villagers. Then events take a bizarre twist. This time, it happens in broad daylight.
As soon as people started reporting these Mothman and UFO sightings, people started seeing these so-called men in black.
Just like in the movies, you know, the black hats and sunglasses, and they were going around intimidating people, saying, don't talk about this.
They didn't know if they were government agents, if they were law enforcement people, or if they were from another realm.
We would see the men in black standing around on the street in the daytime. I mean, if I go to the bank and get change up the street, they'd be standing there, staring, just staring.
Some of those witnesses started saying, hey, you know, these people are coming to our door and asking us questions and telling us not to talk about it to anybody. The local newspaper reporter, Mary Hire, said they would come into her office, and she didn't know them. They didn't identify themselves, but they were adamant about her not reporting these details to the newspaper and to the media. So that started to worry a few people because they didn't know what agenda these so-called men in black had, but they weren't real happy about people discussing the UFOs or the Mothman sightings.
The men in black hang around Point Pleasant throughout the whole time these strange phenomena are occurring. But who are they? And why are they here? To this day, those questions have never been answered.
My brother wanted to come up to the TNT area to look for the Mothman because we'd heard about it that day in school. And we weren't within, I'd say, probably 2-3 blocks when my brother looked and saw something beside the car on my side of the driver's window. So my brother slammed on the brakes, and when he did, the car kind of turned sideways a little bit in the road. And when we did, that thing just stopped and jumped right onto the hood of the car. And it's just like we were just frozen in time for about, I don't know, 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I don't know. Well, it looked through the windshield at us, and we looked at it through the windshield. After it left, my brother turned the car around and we went straight to the sheriff's department in Point Pleasant.
The very next day, soldiers cordoned off all public access to the former munitions plant.
So we went back up to the TNT area. There was 2 or 3 people standing over there on the side there talking to other military personnel, but they were in suits. So one of them come over here to the car, and he just put his hands on the window. He said, "You were told to leave, now leave."
Residents are now really concerned about what's going on. They realize these military operations mean serious business. What are they looking for? Once again, more unanswered questions as the mystery deepens.
One of John Keel's books, he talks about, it may have been actually, might be Mothman Prophecies, he talks about window areas, which are like parts, like areas of land or some, like in various places around the earth and the globe, that they're more akin to like paranormal activity. And I think that's what Point Pleasant is.
There were several people, including John Keel, that was receiving prophecies for future events, some of which came true, some of which didn't. There were strange phone calls, and some of these calls involved voices that were giving these prophecies.
The Mothman is something that scared a lot of people. I believe personally that there was such a creature. I don't think, however, it was a UFO. I don't think it was an occupant from another planet. That is partially the belief system for a lot of people. Small town in the 60s, they didn't have all the lights and the glitz and the technology, so they simply would have enjoyed these stories, and it would have excited them and scared them. And fear can generate all kinds of responses.
The people of this once quiet village turned to local Native American history and legends for an explanation as to what may be happening.
Some people felt that that went back years ago to an Indian curse that was bestowed on the town of Point Pleasant by an Indian chief Cornstalk. What happened was Chief Cornstalk and his son both were murdered over a land dispute with some settlers. And the story went that up on his dying breath, he cursed the town of Point Pleasant for the next 200 years. Some people do believe that. But Chief Cornstalk did exist, his son, and they both were killed. Now, whether or not he did put that curse on the town of Point Pleasant remains a mystery.
Of course, everything that happened, if we had a wreck happen, it was either Cornstalk or Mothman. If we had a fire or a power outage, or mainly their power outages and stuff like that, they contributed to Mothman.
As far as the Mothman goes, I believe it's just something we haven't discovered yet, or something that did exist and may have died. It's something natural. is what the bottom line is. The supernatural element is as romantic and as elegant as it is, will be very, very hard to prove.
While the residents of Point Pleasant try to connect all the dots and make sense of the strange things going on around them, no one could have predicted what happens next.
In November of 1966, the Mothman sightings began, the UFO activity, the men in black. All this was going on at the same time.
Apparently, people were getting thought patterns, like something bad is going to happen, something really terrible. People were having dreams, seeing presents floating in the water and so forth. Really weird, bizarre dreams, but they didn't take it to heart, really, because they just figured it was just a weird dream.
In December of 1967, December 15th, the Silver Bridge, which was a 40-year-old bridge right here in downtown Point Pleasant, collapsed on a Friday evening during rush hour, killed 46 people. This event brought more attention to Point Pleasant, besides the Mothman sightings. Some people felt that it was just a very odd timing to the Mothman activity and the UFO activity. They felt that there may have been some sort of a connection.
Obviously, it was a terrible tragedy. We knew most of the people that went down on the bridge. In fact, the parents of the mayor at that time were on the bridge. A little girl that was in my classroom was on the bridge with her parents.
Some people claim to have seen a large bird flying back and forth across the river days before that bridge fell. There were other people that reported seeing men dressed in black clothing climbing up and down on that bridge. Now, whether those sightings or reports can be validated is another story, but people did come forth and say that.
A controlled group conscious, if you will, is something where a group of people can see something, or one person will see it, and then another person will see it, and then it will go down in that group, in that community, whatever it is. It's definitely real. We saw it. I saw it too. Then it becomes hysteria. So in a small community, sure, I saw it, you saw it, it's real. And they're going to stick by that. It almost becomes a religious experience. Now, another aspect to that is the belief system. Once you believe in something so strongly, it will stay with you over years and years and years. And even something that didn't really occur or something that was misunderstood will still be just as strong 40, 50 years later, because they're going to remember it exactly the way they experienced it. They saw something that was very frightening to them and fascinating.
A lot of those people were not real thrilled about seeing it. They didn't, some of them would not even go out at nighttime. They became reclusive. They felt that something was always looking over their shoulder or in their area of where they were, very paranoid. They didn't really like the attention they were getting from the townspeople, because people thought they were crazy or, loony or whatever. And that's why a lot of those witnesses, even to this day, will not discuss it. They won't admit that it didn't happen. They will tell me it did happen, they saw it with their own eyes, but that's all they want to say about it.
Jeff has always been interested in strange phenomena. His obsession with the mysterious Mothman took root in childhood. He's spent years accumulating enough evidence to fill his Mothman museum. That makes him a leading authority on the creature and where it's likely to be seen.
Okay, these structures have been here for well over 60 years. They're relatively untouched. As you can see all the detail on these, you can actually walk underneath, look underneath, and they're very eerie, especially at night, especially when the fog starts setting out here. They're basically the same as they were back during World War II. When the war ended, they just left everything. They never tore anything down. And during the Mothman sightings, a lot of people thought that whatever this thing was was either roosting or staying in this general area up here in the TNT area.
The collapse of the Silver Bridge a year after the first Mothman sightings shocks the residents of Point Pleasant. Engineers offer plausible explanations about why the 40-year-old bridge collapsed, but some people aren't so sure. They link the tragedy to unnatural causes.
Some people say that the Mothman had something to do with the Silver Bridge falling. My answer to that is the Silver Bridge fell because of a cracked eye bar. There was one eye bar that was prior to the Ohio Tower on the bridge. It cracked, and that is what caused the bridge to fall.
Now, the 13th pin, strangely enough, that held the bridge together, and scientifically speaking, or from an engineer's point of view, when they did tests on the bridge after the accident, after it collapsed, they said that it was no wonder it didn't collapse earlier. It was old bridge, it was out of date, it needed to be changing. That's a matter of record. The fact that it was the 13th pin that went added, another supernatural element to it. And it's great for the urban legend. It adds to it, it adds to the mystery.
There are other people who say that the Mothman was sort of an omen of the bridge falling. I don't know where they got that idea.
Well, in the 60s, they had very poor, or it was just neglect in their disposal of some of the byproducts of that TNT factory. So it got into the aquifer. The aquifer is the main water source, and they would have used it. And even though they may have had purification processes, which I'm sure gets out a lot of the pollutants and carcinogens and what have you, some of it may have gotten through and may have caused a hallucinogenic effect. If the ground was saturated with some kind of unknown pollutant that caused a hallucinogenic effect, and you saw a true-life cryptozoological cryptid creature, you're going to start seeing all kinds of different things. And what is going to be totally natural to a biologist or an ornithologist or something like that, even with their amazement, to people like you and me who's never seen these things before, it's going to be frightening. I believe there's a lot of things that I just don't understand, and with that, I take it with a grain of salt, but I don't discredit what people are saying they're seeing.
Many theories have been presented to justify or debunk the existence of Mothman. One comes from an unofficial branch of science known as cryptozoology.
What do I think it is? I think it does belong, the creature itself belong in the realm of cryptozoology. I think that crypto meaning it's something different, something out of place, not natural to be found. And every once in a while, nature spits out something that shouldn't be there. And I think this is one such case.
There were several eyewitness descriptions and accounts of some of these Mothman sightings that pointed towards the possibility of it being maybe a Thunderbird or a prehistoric bird. I had actually talked to one lady who saw it in daylight in the TNT area, and she described it as a prehistoric bird. Some people felt that the Mothman may have actually been a Thunderbird or something extinct.
It's like any other crypto-type monster, like the Bigfoot legend, or in the state of Florida, the skunk ape, or something like that. Many people say, yes, absolutely exist. We've seen it. We don't know what it is. Why aren't we catching these things? You would think they would leave some kind of evidence. Well, what about a body? Anthropologists and archaeologists, they need these things, empirical data, to believe in it. And without that, it's going to remain in the realm of folklore or myth.
Another theory suggests Mothman might be the result of some radical mutation of a life form exposed to radiation.
I wish there were a lot more supernatural creatures that would make life more interesting. But I think in this case, it was just something that existed, does exist still, and occasionally came out of there. He could have been mutated. It could have been mutated by that particular area, which was the grounds are poisoned. They still are even to this day. The EPA is trying to clean that up. Sometimes, like if you remember the old bee monster movies, you know, they got radiation or something that gets gigantic and what have you. In those cases, radiation just kills, pure and simple. But every once in a while, it alters DNA, it alters growth patterns and so forth in plants and in people. You know, after World War II, you can find all kinds of different effects from radiation for those who survived. Frightening effects that make humans look non-human. So this could happen in nature too. And I think that's also a credible possibility.
I think after the Silver Bridge collapsed, the whole town was in a state of shock. I mean, they'd never seen a disaster, you know, on that scale of, you know, 46 people, you know, perishing in a bridge disaster. It was the worst bridge disaster in American history. Still is. But I think you know, there was so much going on. People had a hard time absorbing all of the activity and the attention. But, you know, people still, you know, were in the TNT area, you know, years and years, even to this day. It's really difficult to say that book will ever be closed on, you know, what this Mothman or large bird actually was. That's the whole beauty of the Mothman stories. People are always looking for answers.
Mothman will probably always be around. I think the idea of this creature will always be around. It may indeed be something from the realms of complete supernatural, and it may blow our socks off someday by presenting itself. Maybe it is an alien life. I can't discount that. My personal belief system is that it's just a misidentification. It's a great story, though.
I think if 20 years ago, somebody would have came forth and said, this is what it was, here's the proof, here's the documentation, book closed, you know, we wouldn't be sitting here right now.
We just don't know until it dies in the woods and the forestry department picks it up and it becomes news and it goes in the classroom school books. It's going to remain the monster that we know it is today.
Whether Mothman is fact or fiction, horror or hoax, the creature towers over the daily life of Point Pleasant. Instead of ridicule, the Mothman book and movie has brought fame and fortune to this little village on the Ohio River.
The movie changed things by putting us out there, putting Point Pleasant on the map.
A big part of the climatic part of the movie is the bridge falling. Then now everyone wants to ask you about the Mothman, and anywhere you travel, if you're from Point Pleasant, always the first thing someone asks you about is the Mothman. But people had a hard time seeing that movie in town. It's hard to watch that bridge fall, and it's hard to watch the Mothman parts about it.
When that movie came out, the floodgates just opened, and you know, the town was just overrun. You know, people coming here, you know, they wanted to go where this actually happened. I knew right then that it would change the town.
But you know, whether you believe in the Mothman or not, it's done a lot for Point Pleasant. Mothman Festival is the single biggest attractor from throughout the country and the world that we have here in Point Pleasant. You can't drive down Main Street because it's full of people. And they come from all over the world. We've had people from China, Australia, Japan, England. They come from every place to come to this Mothman Festival.
After the movie, The Mothman Prophecies, came out, Jeff and Carolyn Harris came up with this idea that we should have a festival each year to bring all of the people that would be interested in something like that.
I was talking to Carolyn one day and I said, you know, we ought to try maybe a Mothman festival or a convention, something like that. This was in November of 2002. This was just months after the movie came out. And we decided to give it a go. We decided like in October of that year to have it. So we only had a month. We didn't advertise. We didn't really get it out to the media much, but we had 400 or 500 people just show up by word of mouth. And that was the catalyst for what now is the 12th year of the Mothman Festival.
And we have speakers at the State Theater. We have entertainment on the Riverfront Park. And sometimes we have karaoke contest. We've had a weightlifting contest there. We have a lot of vendors out here, a lot of souvenirs. We have a witness panel that we pay to sit there and answer questions. People want to ask them indirect, for sure. You know, what did you see? They want to ask them. They like that out there. And we try to add something every year. We have a 5K race. We have a big Mothman beauty pageant.
From the Mothman, glowing red eyes, 10 feet tall, baby, that's no lie.
In the Mothman Festival pageant, we have mothwear, which is where contestants wear jeans, and then they are to incorporate the color green into their outfit. And we get wings sometimes. Contestants have wings. Sometimes contestants just they want to show their personality, so they're real stylish and upbeat. They also compete in evening gown and onstage question. And what the judges usually try to look for is just a natural girl who is just wanting to really promote the Mothman Festival pageant and not just be after the crown and sash, but actually to promote the festival.
I went in 2010. It was really actually quite surprising because I'd never done a pageant before, so I was really nervous. And I'd always liked the Mothman and all that stuff, so I thought, hey, why not? Let's try it. And then lo and behold, I won, which was absolutely insane. But the pageant was actually really cool. Like, we got to learn the Mothman dance, which was really fun. Mothman, he's not from Japan. He's genuine American.
People come from all over the world, literally, and that's why we call it the world's only Mothman Museum. But we have props, we have very rare archives, we had a lot of John Keel memorabilia, we carry merchandise, and we started, you know, just opening 2 or 3 days a week. Now we're open 7 days a week. And we're knowledgeable. People want to come in and ask us questions. We show documentaries and things like that.
I really enjoy being a tour guide. I meet people from all over the world. It's really cool. We can take them up to TNT area, let them see everything as far as different sites of Point Pleasant, tell them different stories that I've been told throughout the years about the Mothman and all the different encounters with him. Stories I've actually heard from the eyewitnesses themselves. Then we get out and we check out the igloos and look at the first, where the first sighting was. It's really, really entertaining. I enjoy it.
Igloos are storage bunkers made of cement where ammunition was stored during the Second World War.
Although there were never really actually any Mothman sightings reported in the igloos, it's still a fascinating part of the history of the TNT area. As you can see, the 4-foot thick walls. A lot of paranormal groups frequent the igloos because they want to try to catch the orbs and different pictures and things like that. So it's a vital part of the Mothman history, and I think it needs to be researched a little more.
It's been nearly 50 years since the Mothman and the Men in Black spooked a little village in West Virginia. But how things have changed. From the town's worst nightmare, Mothman has become a dream come true and a symbol of pride and joy for everyone.
The Mothman is such a creature that it's hard not to look at. He sort of takes after Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot, but I think ours is a little more exciting because he just shows up everywhere, and there's so many stories behind him that it's changed our town.
One of the main attractions here in downtown Point Pleasant is the world-famous Mothman statue. That statue came about 2 or 3 years after the movie was released, and a local artist who works in stainless steel named Bob Roach created that statue after sitting down with some of the Mothman witnesses and eyewitnesses and things like that, and he came to his own, version of that Mothman. But people all over the world come to get their picture taken with that statue.
We unveiled the statue in a ceremony that attracted national news. CBS Sunday Morning came, and it shocked all of us. We thought it would just be a few people from around town and maybe a couple local stations, but we immediately went on national TV when the statue was unveiled.
It's a really nice piece of artwork, and a lot of detail and things like that. But it's a nice centerpiece to let people know, what all happened here. Mothman is a big part of the history of Point Pleasant. There's other pieces of history too.
We have a Mothman tram that goes around through town. You can board it out here, and it'll take you to all of our entities that we have. River Museum, behind the flood wall for the murals, the Silver Bridge Memorial, anything we have at Fort Randolph going on, but the tram will take you to show you that we have more than just Mothman. We have the history and the mystery.
Families come from all over. Groups come, bus tours come, governors come and get their picture taken with the Mothman. It's not a true visit to Point Pleasant unless you get your picture taken with the Mothman. I don't know how to explain it, but they're here every day, just about all year long. I don't care if it's raining, snowing, or what, there's people getting their picture taken with the Mothman. It's really been a phenomenon that you would never think about, but it's here.
I can't say for sure whether it's real or not. I just know that there's a tremendous amount of evidence that it is. We invite everybody to come here. We take them and show them all the different attractions that are geared towards it, and we'll let them make up their mind for themselves.
The Mothman is a big thing with a lot of people. It's kind of put Point Pleasant on the map in most recent years, and people come just because they've heard of it, and it's sort of mysterious, and they want to see what it looks like. We have the statue in town, and so that's something that's visible to them,
In New Jersey, there lurks a strange monster that terrorizes anyone who ventures deep enough into the forests of the Pine Barrens.
I've driven through the pines a few times, but not with the top down. No way. Anything could get you.
Beware of the Jersey Devil.
God almighty, was that running? Something just ran across the road.
To most people, New Jersey is Atlantic City casinos, the beaches of Cape May, a lush national parks and the backdrop for the legendary television series The Sopranos. But this beautiful state and its rich history hide a secret, one that terrorizes some and amuses others, the Jersey Devil. Jerry Plumeri is among those who fear the Jersey Devil.
It was like 1964, and everybody went down the shore. Everybody went to Seaside. And we were on our way home from the shore, going through the pines, and we had a convertible with the top down. And all of a sudden, I heard this blood-curdling scream. This isn't normal, this wasn't human. I looked over in the trees, and there was these lights, like 2 red lights like this. And it seemed to be something like swinging from tree to tree. I guess maybe about 2 minutes later, all of a sudden this thing flies in front of us. It was like 6 feet in front of us. And thank God, because we would have hit it. If he'd have came closer, we would have ran right into him. But he just stood there looking at us. I mean, we sat like this. He stared at us looking mean, and I'm thinking, he's gonna kill us. And we couldn't move. We couldn't even back the car up. We were too scared to do anything. Three of us just stared at each other. It was weird. It was really weird.
Most people laugh or give me a look like, yeah, right. And 3 of my girlfriends last night, I told about it, and they all just looked at me. One said, oh, I've heard about it, and I says, no, it's real. She didn't believe me. Honestly, I don't care if you don't believe me. I believe my mother.
Leeds Point in Galloway County is considered the birthplace of the Jersey Devil. It's here that the legend of the monster is taken most seriously, and the mayor, Don Purdy, is particularly proud of their most famous resident.
I own a towing company with 6 tow trucks, and I own a body shop, and I own an auto repair center, and then I am the mayor of the town. I don't think that we've ever put a number on the amount of people that travel to Galloway Township or Leeds Point to find the, or search of the Jersey Devil. But I'm sure there's a lot that we don't know. You know from going around the state of New Jersey at different stories that you've heard, but it all comes back to here. You know, this is it. Galloway Township is the home of the Jersey Devil. Well, Galloway's pretty unique. Galloway Township is the largest municipality in the state of New Jersey, depends on who's measuring it. It's 114 square miles. A lot of people measure some of the wetlands and so forth. It's a large community. It's really close to Atlantic City. Ken Suey is one of our great historians of Galloway Township, and Ken is a great guy in knowing the history of not only Galloway Township, but Leeds Point, because that's where Ken lives. And I think that there's history there, and I think as long as there's history, it will live. I believe that.
You are in Galloway Township Historical Society Library. We collect anything and everything to do with primarily Galloway Township, but we also have an Atlantic City room, and anything in the area of historical value we assemble and record, keep records on it, and keep it for posterity.
This small village of a few hundred souls was named after its founder, Daniel Leeds, a name as famous as it is common among locals.
There is but one Leeds family that was established in South Jersey. There was some other ones in New England, but the Leeds family that established in New Jersey went ahead, proceeded. The first mayor of Atlantic City was Leeds.
Chalky Leeds.
Chalky Leeds.
Yeah.
Mayor of Galloway Township has been a Leeds at one point in time.
Yeah, Harry. Yeah, Harry Leeds.
Harry Leeds, and I'm married to a Leeds.
But the most famous of the Leeds is Jane, or as she's known here, Mother Leeds. This mother of 13 children influenced New Jersey for centuries, beginning in 1735.
It seems that Jane Leeds and her husband Daniel lived in a cabin at the edge of a great swamp along the Mullica River. Now, folks in these parts say that it was a strange family, an unusual family. Some people even said that Jane Leeds was a witch. One night, she learned that she was pregnant with her 13th child. And in a moment of understandable weakness, she said, as she was saying her prayers, "Lord, let this one not be a child. Let this one be a devil."
He was about 8 feet tall and like the head of a horse. And he looked angry, and he had horns. And his long arms had claws on the ends of it, you know, like it could really scratch you. The body was like all decrepit, sort of like the body of a horse, but not beautiful and smooth like a horse would be. And then like when a horse is up on 2 legs and they're going with their paws like this, the legs in the back are all crooked. Well, this is what he was, and he was walking on them like that, with hooves. And I'm telling you, I thought I was crazy. I didn't think I really saw this. And no sooner did he just stare at us like that for about 2 minutes, but 2 minutes is long when you're scared. He just sprouted his wings like this, which were humongous. They were really big, and just took off into the forest. Thank you for not killing me, seriously, because I could have been dead.
People who claim to have seen the Jersey Devil describe it as having a dog or horse's head, horns, a body like a kangaroo's, broad wings, a reptile's tail, hooves, and razor-sharp claws.
Someday in the late fall, listen carefully when you hear the wind coming off the ocean through the pines. It almost seems like someone is trying to tell us something, possibly someone's name. Oh, Mother Leeds. Oh, Mother Leeds.
But how does a woman from America's colonial era give birth to the devil?
Well, we do know that it was an unusual family. It was a very large family. It had 12 children. And Jane Leeds, her problem was not really with her husband. Daniel, he was a good hunter, an excellent fisherman, a decent gardener. There was always food on the table. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that Daniel Leeds didn't take very much interest in the children. And so Jane Leeds was left with the cleaning, the cooking, the laundry, chopping wood, picking things up, putting things away. To tell the truth, she was at her wit's end. She was frustrated. On that frightful night in February of 1735, when Mother Leeds' 13th child was born, it started out a perfectly healthy, normal little baby boy with blonde hair and blue eyes, but then something went terribly wrong.
My name is Rochelle Christopher. I am an independent historian with Victorian Vanities. My organization teaches people about American history. And one of the things we look at generally in the show that I do on Weird New Jersey is the New Jersey Devil. And I did see it once. I'd been driving for a couple of hours. I was between Cape May and Stone Harbor, and it jumped out in the road. And of course it then flew away. Mother Leeds gave birth. The devil apparently was a beautiful baby boy. Soon after he was born, he grew talons and horns and wings unfurled from his back and very long legs. He went into the next room where the midwives were, and his father killed his father and mother, killed other children cowering in the corner, killed his mother, and then flew up the chimney, leaving all of this rubble behind.
The tranquility of Leeds Point residents is sometimes disturbed by curious travelers looking for the very source of the Jersey Devil legend. The first stop on their macabre pilgrimage? a house built on the ruins of the legendary residence of Jane Leeds.
There are cults who believe in the New Jersey Devil, and some people believe this is the neighborhood, this is the house. They're going to threaten, they want what they want, which is to burn down the house if they can't take pictures, to do seances, to conjure it up, but they're looking for a connection to the devil, which this lady who owns the house claims is not. There is nearby a cemetery. It's called Leeds Point Community Cemetery, and it has maybe about 40 or 50 stones in it, and there were kids from Stockton, students from Stockton University, and they did a seance up there, hoping to conjure up something.
History and folklore mingle in the legendary stories of the Jersey Devil. One of the most famous of them features none other than Napoleon's brother, Joseph Bonaparte.
There's a wonderful story about Joseph Bonaparte, the older brother of Napoleon, who lived in Philadelphia while he was waiting for his house to be built in Mount Holly. And he had an encounter with the New Jersey Devil. And apparently he looked at it with his gun, and the New Jersey Devil looked at him, and they both looked at each other, and finally the devil flew away. Well, Joseph Bonaparte swore that he was going to find the devil and bring it home as a trophy. Of course, he never saw it again.
But it was in 1909, during the week of January 16th to 22nd, that the Jersey Devil made its most famous appearance, throwing the entire country into panic. Monster sightings occurred in Atlantic City, Philadelphia, and outside New York City. The newspapers picked up the story, and the Philadelphia Zoo even offered $10,000 for his capture.
1909, the week when everybody said they saw it. That was the week when the New Jersey Devil was seen all over southern New Jersey, but it flew away. It was seen in Bridgeton, and it flew away. It was seen by a group of people on a trolley car in Camden, and it flew away. And that seems to be the story. They saw it, and it flew away. And everyone on the trolley car said they saw it. It made an appearance on a rooftop. Adults in Philadelphia and Camden were afraid to send their children to school because they were afraid the New Jersey Devil was going to make its appearance.
Paul Evans Peterson Jr. is one of those who believes in the legend of the Jersey Devil. He devotes his free time to organizing monster hunts and writing songs about New Jersey and its history. He even wrote a book, The Legendary Pine Barrens, New Tales from Old Haunts.
Hey, my name is Paul Evans Peterson Jr. I am a singer, songwriter, author, and jewelry maker. And I live here in the Pine Barrens of South Jersey, and I've seen the Jersey Devil. When
Jerry Plumeri saw an ad in the local newspaper announcing a conference hosted by Paul Evans Peterson, she jumped at the opportunity to share her terrifying encounter in the summer of '64.
I kind of like put it in the back of my mind because everybody thought I was nuts. So I ignored it. And now, mind you, years and years are gone by. This was 1964. When I saw in the newspaper, they're having this talk at the library. Paul Peterson is going to, he writes books about the Jersey Devil. And I said, you know what, I got to go see this. There's something telling me to go. And I sat there in the second row because I knew I was going to talk to him. And I'm in the second row and he's talking. I was mesmerized by his talking because he saw the Jersey Devil 5 times. And he said, has anybody seen the Jersey Devil? So I went like this, real meek, because I'm thinking, these people are going to think I'm nuts. But you could hear a pin drop in the room. You made this your life thing.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never saw his face. I saw it hopping away from me. And I heard it coming up my cellar steps and banging on the door.
But never came face to face?
Never came face to face with it. Nope.
I'm asking if you remember.
I'll write a book called I Shook Hands with the Jersey Devil.
That'd be great. I'd love that.
Me too.
I shook claws with a Jersey Devil.
If the Jersey Devil was born in Leeds Point, he hides in the forests of Pine Barrens. Today, Jerry Plumeri and Paul Evans Peterson meet at the visitor center of the Pine Barrens Preservation Alliance, on the edge of the forest where the monster last appeared.
Doesn't he, no, do you want me to tell the truth? He doesn't look anything like what I saw. What I saw was about this tall, but these are like real hands. He didn't have real hands, they were claws. And the legs didn't know nothing like this. It was like a horse when it was standing up on its hind legs, where the back legs are bent, and he had hooves, which he has hooves, and a long tail. But a head of a horse, but this looks too gentle. He didn't look gentle, he had red lights for his eyes and horns.
So a lot of people down through the years have seen it and have shot at it. I have a friend of mine that shot at it 3 times.
See, you don't hear about it for a long, long time.
Right. Well, they say that anytime you see a lot of sightings of the Jersey Devil, it means a war is coming. One of the best ways to protect yourself from the Jersey Devil is you got to find these tracks. And this is a story that goes back to me and my grandkids, or my kids when my kids were little. And I would tell them, you got to get a little shovel and dig the track real carefully and put it into a glass jar and screw the lid on it and keep that jar under your bed. And as long as you keep that track in a jar under your bed, the Jersey Devil will never hurt you.
Wow. They all think we're all nuts in Jersey. Yeah, no, seriously, they do.
Between the Jersey Devil and all the people in the malls, we are crazy.
Right, really, when you come down to it, the Jersey Devil. Now, where do you hear that? Any other state?
Yeah. All the stories that have ever been told about the Jersey Devil are born right there. Yep. That's it. That's where it all comes from.
The Pine Barrens is 4,500 square kilometers or 1,700 square miles of dense forest bordering the Atlantic coast south of the state of New Jersey. In 1978, it became the first nature reserve protected by the U.S. government. People come here to get lost in nature. Some come to chase monsters. It is said that come nightfall, campers often find themselves more than a little unnerved.
All right, what we're going to do right now is we're going to go through the heart of the Pine Barrens, and we're going to be looking for Jersey Devil tracks. And if we can, you never know, we might see something. The correct behavior is just to pay a close attention to what's going on in the woods, not disturbing anything, because there's like 30 different kinds of plants that grow there and nowhere else that are on the endangered species lists. There's a lot of animals on the same list, endangered species. And we're just going to watch the woods and see what comes out of it. And if we see the Jersey Devil, this has a really good reverse gear. And we'll be putting it in reverse and getting away from it. Welcome to New Jersey. When I go hunting for the Jersey Devil, I like to go either right in this area, back along the Mullica River, or down in Cumberland County, which is closer to the Delaware Bay than it is to the Atlantic Ocean. That's number one, that's why I keep a compass in the car. But as long as I know where the sun is, I'm usually pretty good about not getting lost. But I've been back here before, and it gets very frustrating if you don't know where you are. And you can get yourself really lost back here. And I mean for a whole day. Maybe, and if it gets dark, forget about it. If you don't know what the hell phase the moon's in, you're going to stay out there. I love it out here. This place is my heart, man. It really is. And ever since I've been a little kid, I just keep coming back out here, and I've tried to learn everything I can about all the different species of plants and animals, and about the people. It's just a really special place.
The earth in the Pine Barrens is sandy, which caused many European settlers to leave the area in search of more fertile land. Since then, this vast territory, which occupies nearly a quarter of the state of New Jersey, has been considered an inhospitable land. But this is a mistake, according to historian Kenneth Suey.
This would have been a paradise for people that were establishing housing, first coming down. I have fuel, I have fire, I have water, I have fish in the water, I have food. I have cranberries that can grow here. They had the necessities of life. I don't consider us barren at all. Just look around you. Do you see anything barren about where we're at? I mean, water lilies, holly, magnolias. We have it all. Yeah? We're only going to go a little further.
It is here that the Jersey Devil has made his home. The monster has been known to take long drinks from the deserted swamps of the Pine Barrens. Another favorite haunt of the Jersey Devil, the ghost town of Batstow. This uninhabited village dates from 1766, almost 30 years after the birth of the monster.
The Jersey Devil has been seen here through the years. This village was started in the 1700s, and it was started as a ironworks. And they made iron stuff for the colonists. And during the Revolutionary War, they made munitions and stuff for the Revolutionary War fighters. And after that, in the 1800s, it was turned into a glass works. And they made window glass, what they call window light. And the state of New Jersey has preserved it. And it looks pretty much like it did back in that time. Over the years, the Jersey Devil's been seen here several times, or reported seen here several times by, residents, workers. And this is the area where the sightings are very prevalent. It's right around here, because we're not that far from the back bays. The Batstow River's right through here. Batstow Lake is right over there. And it seems that the Jersey Devil prefers areas where there's water. So in areas like this is, where you're going to see it. Yeah, he's quiet until he starts screaming at people. And that's mainly what you hear about, is people hear it. They hear this ungodly scream that they can't, put their finger on what kind of animal they've ever heard in their life made that scream. And a lot of your quote-unquote sightings are actually hearings, people that have heard whatever this thing is. And now we're going to go back into Bulltown Road, which is another kind of like a village back here where it's been seen a lot. So. If you fish where there ain't no fish, you ain't going to catch them. If you go looking for the Jersey Devil where he ain't going to be that day, you ain't going to see it.
How did the Pine Barrens become synonymous with fear and danger in the minds of the residents of New Jersey? Over the centuries, some people have had a personal interest in cultivating the mystery of the forest.
The Pine Barrens, because it's so sparsely populated, is a good place if you want to carry on illegal activities, because who's going to see you? So, for example, In the early days of the Republic, Alexander Hamilton had the idea to collect duties at the ports. So ships coming from Europe might go to New York or Philadelphia, and when they pull in, the tax collector was there to collect the customs duty. But let's say you don't want to pay the taxes. Well, maybe you could take your ship to Barnegat Bay or to Tuckerton and come ashore with the goods loaded onto Conestoga wagons, which could take the goods to New York and Philadelphia. You would increase your profits because you didn't have to pay the taxes. Now, naturally, you don't want revenue officers coming around. And so you tell people the story of the Jersey Devil. You know, when outsiders come around into the woods, they often don't come out. And it was a mode of intimidation.
Small sandy roads crisscross the Pine Barrens. In New Jersey, they are called sugar sand roads. And of course, to venture on them increases your chance of coming face to face with the Jersey Devil.
God almighty, was that running? Oh man, something just ran across the road. This is where, if you're gonna see something, this is where you're gonna see it. The Jersey Devil has been seen, or reportedly seen, and this is one of the main roads that they have the Jersey Devil hunts on. Because this is pretty much in the middle of the Pine Barrens right here. This is smack dab in the middle of it.
I've driven through the pines a few times, but not with the top down. No way. No. Anything can get you. Anything can drop out from the trees.
Even today, many people, sane, trustworthy people, say they believe in the existence of the Jersey Devil. There have been over 2,000 reported sightings, but what did these people really see?
A lot of people have said they've seen it. Could be anything. Could be drunk, could be tired, could be they want attention, could be they saw something. I can tell you that I don't believe in it, but when I drive through the Pine Barrens at night, there is something. It is creepy, and I don't know what it is.
There are explanations, and many times my colleagues, fellow scholars, have come up with hypotheses to explain away what people saw, but they think they saw the Jersey Devil, but it's really something else. One is like the fruit bat, because bat-like wings, okay, we're halfway there, and it's night, and it's in the woods, and you're not familiar with wildlife, and you're scared, and you know the story already. Well, the Jersey Devil pops into your mind as an explanation for what you saw. So bat would be one possibility. Far more plausible is the great horned owl. The great horned owl has quite a wingspan and makes clicking noises, and coming at you at night in the woods could be frightening enough. And again, if you already know the story of the Jersey Devil, you might mistake the great horned owl for the Jersey Devil.
I have fished, trapped, and hunted for most of my life. I've been out in the bays, in the woods, in the swamps at every hour of the day and night. I've heard some really strange noises, which I have to attribute to being animal noises of one type or another. But I do not believe that there's a Jersey Devil. I believe it is a legend.
It's really kind of a lousy feeling when you're trying to tell somebody something and they're laughing at you. It's supernatural. And a lot of people are interested in that. I know I am. I mean, I watch some crazy shows, you know, Thriller and all that. I watch some crazy shows, but this wasn't a show. This was true. So I don't see how they can't believe when there's people like me, and I know there's other people that's seen them. And I'm telling you, word for word, I never changed my story when I told it to Paul. I've never swayed from the story. It's the truth. I'm not making it up. But like I said, a couple of my friends think I'm off my rocker. They think I'm making it up for attention. No way.
The last stop on the trail of the Jersey Devil, the Washington Tavern, the only remnant of a village long gone.
This is as far as we'll go. The ruins are right over there. This is the site of the Washington Tavern. And this is one of the best places, if you listen real close, you will see how absolutely dead quiet it is. You can see how old this growth in here is. This has been here a long, long time. And it's amazing. Any time of year you come here, it's always this quiet. It's like everything else is afraid to live around here. And that's part of the legend, that at the birthplace of the Jersey Devil, no animal, birds, anything. It's very strange. Very strange. Gives you a chill every time you come down here, and I've been coming down here for a long while. There's basically a clearing over here. The Jersey Devil has been sighted a lot here. And it was one of the hangouts of Joe Mulliner, one of the pine robbers. And like I said, this is all that's left. But this was a tavern built out here in the middle of nowheres now. But back in the day, this was quite the place to be. And now it's just a ghost town.
In the time when these ruins were a village, legends about monsters had significant resonance in the community.
Ever since the 20th century, there have been forces working against these traditional stories. I mean, in my romantic imagination, I can see, say, in the 19th century, the village storyteller sitting around the potbelly stove in the general store, regaling people with stories, and people with fiddles and banjos having a Saturday night dance. In the old days, people made their own entertainment. They made their own music, they told their own stories. Our culture doesn't really support leisurely storytelling anymore.
And that's kind of like the foundation, and the floor would have went across. And that was the basement of it. This all used to be brick, and it's disappearing. So even just standing here, you got to wonder. It really feels like you're being watched.
The story of the Jersey Devil has been passed down for 3 centuries. And along the way, it has undergone some changes. The commercialization of the Jersey Devil was inevitable, but it had some positive and some negative consequences, according to folklorist Angus Gillespie.
The traditional stories of the Jersey Devil, and I think this is something that's very hard for contemporary audiences to understand. In the original versions, among the old families of South Jersey, this is an awesome, fearsome, nasty, dangerous creature who's said to have slit the throats of babies in their cribs. This is a creature that's monstrous and evil. Since we have, for the last several years, this hockey team called the New Jersey Devils, there's a lot of name recognition. I mean, people almost worldwide, certainly in North America, recognize the name, but they don't really know the story. And the other problem is, over time, and particularly in places like Smithville, which is very close to Leeds Point, you have like souvenir shops selling T-shirts, shot glasses, pennants, postcards, and the usual representation is of the Jersey Devil as a kind of a cartoon character who's kind of cute. From my point of view, I mean, that's all wrong. I mean, this is not clever or cute or cartoon-like. This is awesome and scary and frightful.
Once feared, today the Jersey Devil is celebrated. Even New Jersey native Bruce Springsteen has sung about the devil. Everyone embraces the Made in New Jersey legend, and everyone has their story to tell.
And I was a kid riding a bike down there one time. My dogs were with me, the dirt road back there in Kings Highway, and something came out of the woods, made a noise. My dogs like chased it through the woods. They were barking and all this stuff. I don't know what it was to this day. But I've hunted all around here all my life. And you just hear all the Jersey Devil stories, and then I'd be in the woods, you'd hear some screaming. People said, it's just a fox. But I don't know what it was. I'm 49, and I've been told this stuff since I was little. Who knows if it's true? I mean, I sort of believe it. It's like Bigfoot. I believe in Bigfoot.
As a kid, I saw it as real. As a kid, I certainly saw it as real, especially you go to the local library and they have all the old Jersey Devil documentaries, like, you know, oh, we saw something rustling in the woods, you know. It's I loved it. I loved it. You know, just having that bit of imagination to what might be lurking in the woods. And there's plenty of woods for it to lurk in, too. I talk about it all the time. I talk about it anybody that'll listen, pretty much. So, well, I have plenty of relatives that have claimed that they've mostly heard the Jersey Devil, something rustling in the bushes. I think it's usually probably just a deer screaming, but I like to believe them when they say they heard it.
But even those who believe in the monster don't necessarily think it's dangerous or means to harm anyone.
I just think he's scared, and I think he's lost and doesn't know where he belongs. And maybe he just wants to reach out, but everybody's so scared of him because he looks like what people would call a freak, not to be mean, but he doesn't look normal, and people get scared of that. And he's become the devil. If he was the devil, he would have killed people. Yeah. He would have attacked people. So I think devil's the wrong word for him. I think he's just one of our many wonderful people to add to Jersey.
I asked Paul how in the world this thing is still alive if it was born in the 1700s. Because let's face it, come on, that's a long time ago. And he says it reinvents itself. The first thing I said, well, who does he mate with? I mean, there's no other monsters. Who does he mate with? But the thing is, it's there. It's really there. But he doesn't hurt anybody. That's the main thing. I think that's pretty cool. He's sort of like in limbo. He's roaming around and has no place to go.
As a professional folklorist, it's my job to be a professional agnostic. I don't want to be too skeptical, and I don't want to be too gullible. Besides, when I'm interviewing people, I have to show respect. And if somebody believes in the Jersey Devil, I'm not going to disabuse them of that. I want to draw them out. And I think it's easy enough to find skeptics. It's harder to find true believers. And it's harder yet to find a true believer who will go public with her story.
We didn't see him, and it's you know, there's been a lot of people down through the years that go on Jersey Devil hunts, and with all kinds of equipment, with all kinds of detectors and electronic stuff and this, that, and the other thing, and that's not usually when it happens. You know, hopefully we could have had it happen, but it didn't. Of course, the day's not over yet. You never know. It's a long ride back to Hamilton. But usually it's somebody down here fishing or hunting or just going for a walk, and the thing will come out and stand in front of them, or you know, jump in front of its car, and that's when it's seen. It's at the strangest times or the most unexpected times, and anytime you come to this part of South Jersey, could be the time you see it. And every time I come down here fishing or just taking a ride with a wife and taking some pictures, that could be the time that you look right into its eyes, and it's Jersey Devil.
In the backwater marshes where the cranberries grow, the water takes on the color of wine as it flows, and every evening the sun's fire drowns in the bay, and all the creatures that live here, they have their own special way. And I swear it's true, these Pine Barren Blues, the folks that live in the Barrens, they have a story they tell. They say the old Leeds woman, she bore a child from hell. The night he's born, he took wings off and flew out into the night. They say you still hear him screaming when the conditions are right. And I swear it's true, these Pine Barren Blues.
In the heart of Pennsylvania, a strange creature has been seen over the countryside and forests.
We may be dealing with maybe a possible flying creature. We don't know.
Around here, they call it the Thunderbird.
I wouldn't want to be in his food chain.
We just keep going out there and we keep trying to, find those pieces of the puzzle that are missing.
And they are somewhere, and they will be found.
Pennsylvania, USA, a state rich in history. The Philadelphia metropolitan area is considered the birthplace of American democracy. It's also famous for its beautiful natural surroundings and for once being the center of America's steel industry. Today, its rural areas seem frozen in time, small enclaves forgotten to history. But this state has a well-kept secret. Here, locals are passionate about all things paranormal. And it is said that sometimes, at dusk, strange creatures take to the skies.
I'm Joe Mayer, from South Greensburg. I'm a stonemason. It was just about dark. The sky still had light in it, but it was real close to turning dark, late dusk. And it just came out of nowhere. I mean, it made no noise except the swish of the wings I heard. And that was, when I looked up, it was just like this. I mean, it just never looked at us or anything. It just was on a mission, I guess, heading somewhere to feed. We were out here. My wife, Ryan, and our neighbor were sitting right there. I was over the fire here, flipping the ribs. And I heard flapping behind me. It sounded like a whoosh sound of a wing. And I turned around and looked, and up in the sky behind me was a huge bird. It was right there. It was right there. I watched this wing. I heard the wing coming down as I turned around, and it went straight down that road. Right where the ditch is in the tree up there. It probably cleared that tree 20 feet. Its second wing flap was about where that telephone pole was. The next one was about halfway down that road, and then it was gone. It was that fast. It was like 10 seconds, maybe 12 seconds, and it was gone. What was that? I don't know. And I jumped in on the internet after that, and we were looking up birds. And we seen nothing that looked like it. Yeah, nothing. Closest thing to that was, in color-wise, was like a golden eagle, which is a darker brown. But it was, I've seen eagles. That wasn't an eagle. It was just a huge bird.
Mary is passionate about anything paranormal. She knows all of the Thunderbird stories.
I've talked to many people who have actually had encounters of various kinds. People who have seen it flying, people who have seen it, people who have complained that the fish in their pond have all disappeared because the Thunderbird has eaten them. Friends that have had little dogs taken from a fenced-in yard at night. So yeah, I know some Thunderbird stuff.
For Mary, monsters aren't just a passion, they're a job.
This is my store. It's a gift shop. It's got all kinds of fun stuff in it. We like monsters. Well, right now we're studying Thunderbirds because the Thunderbird is well known around here for doing some very strange things. Okay, Thunderbirds, dream catchers, cards with Thunderbird feathers on them. Come on, Bigfoot. You can actually have your picture taken with Bigfoot. This is a picture of an Indian teepee with a Thunderbird. You can see what they were seeing. And it wasn't a heron, and it wasn't an eagle, and it wasn't an owl. It was something else. I think it's a small segment of the population that really finds them interesting, wants to know more, wants to follow up on them, wants to look for themselves to see, looking around to see if they can see something. So I'd say a small part of our population, but a serious one, are keeping track of what goes on.
South Greensburg, a small town of 2,000 inhabitants, has experienced the most Thunderbird reports. In this small, tightly knit community, news of the paranormal spreads like wildfire.
I'm Betty Dobies, mayor of South Greensburg. It's just a friendly town. They look out for each other. You know what I mean? It's like a knitted community where everybody looks out for each other. We don't bother each other, but if there's a problem, everybody comes in and helps solve that problem or help you out in any way they can. It's just that kind of communities that we have here. It would have a big wigs band that people have seen as far as, Acme and all around the area. Somebody's seen it up on 819. A friend of mine's seen it up in Acme where they have a pond. But as far as being a Thunderbird or not, I can't answer that. But there are sightings of a big bird, and that's what it is.
Mike is one of those who saw the disturbing, elusive creature.
It was September 2001, and I was standing on the porch right of my old house, watching the traffic go by. It was on a major highway, 119, in Greensburg, and caught my attention was a noise it sounded like a flags flapping in a thunderstorm, and I looked up and I thought I saw a plane. I did a double take, like a small plane, and here it was a bird. Its wingspan was stretched out. It might have been 50 feet up in the air, but I could tell that the wings would stretch almost 3 lanes of a 4-lane highway, and it inspired me to paint this.
This is Beyond the Edge Radio. Nervous? Scared? Don't be afraid. The wait will be over soon. Sit down, strap in, and hold on tight.
Let's go live.
You're about to be
5,
taken
4,
beyond the
3.
Hey, good evening and welcome to another edition of Beyond the Edge Radio. We are live here on the ParaX Radio Network and Planet Paranormal, 803 here on the East Coast, and it is Sunday.
Eric Altman spends all his free time chasing monsters. He would love to add the Thunderbird to his trophy case.
People describe the Thunderbird as a large bird, usually black in color, from the beak to the talons. Sometimes it's covered in feathers, sometimes not, but usually when it's covered in feathers, as I said, it's black. Sometimes they describe a white ring around its neck, other times no. When it's not covered with feathers, they usually describe it having like a membrane, like a reptilian membrane, or like a leathery type of skin to it. And the wingspan, it ranges in size from 8 foot, and I've heard reports as much as 20 foot in length. A very large bird.
We looked on the internet to find out what it could be, and we kept running into Stan Gordon's name, so I called him up and put a report in, and he came down and interviewed me over and asked me to draw a picture of it.
In Pennsylvania, when the supernatural is spotted, Stan Gordon is called to the rescue. He has carefully documented all the evidence on the Thunderbird.
My name is Stan Gordon. I'm from Greensburg, Pennsylvania. I've been researching, investigating strange and unusual happenings here in Pennsylvania since, actually, I started in 1959 when I was 10 years old. The main thing I do is gather information. Witnesses call me on sightings either by way of email or my hotline, which has been available to the public since 1969. And I interview people, try to figure out what they saw. Cases that warranted, we try to go out and do first-hand investigations. Many of the phenomena I investigate, whether it be strange creatures or UFOs, many of these things, as we track them down, we can find an explanation for them. Many of these things are misidentifications. We can figure out what the people see. But year after year, people continue to report these encounters with something that, as of yet, we don't have the answers for.
Pennsylvania is fertile ground for Eric Altman and Stan Gordon. It is said that monster sightings are more common here than in any other state in the country.
Historically, Pennsylvania has always been active with a history of strange phenomena. From accounts from the Native Americans to articles in newspapers of the 1800s to the present, people see things year after year throughout the state of Pennsylvania.
I'm not sure why this area has such a history of strange phenomenon. I really don't know, but it just does. Reports back from the 50s onward. Some of the more recent ones have taken place in the 90s through the 2000s. Most recent was in 2013, but they go back as far back as the 50s. And we're aware of across the nation, there have been reports dating back to the 1800s.
Many of the reports initially appear to be strange and unusual, but when you go out and do the investigation, the majority are found to be either natural or man-made in origin. It's very hard, for example, when you see an aircraft in the sky or a bird, to get an idea of the actual altitude and size. We've had instances of these huge birds, these Thunderbird reports, where they are also at very, very close range, and there was a way that they were able to measure and get a pretty good idea of the wingspan of those very large flying creatures. Over the years, I've gathered a lot of information, interviewed hundreds and hundreds of witnesses, gathered various types of physical evidence, saw different patterns to various phenomena. So I'm convinced that there's phenomena out there that we don't have an explanation for.
But where could this giant bird come from? According to witnesses, the creature could be millions of years old.
Some of the reports describe something as very large, but with leathery skin. They look like giant bats. And then other witnesses that come forward who have seen some of these huge flying creatures at pretty close range, and reluctantly they tell me that they look like something that was prehistoric.
We may be dealing with maybe a pterodon or a pterosaur, an extinct, possible flying creature. We don't know.
And this is one of those mysteries with so many of these strange creature reports, whether we're dealing with Thunderbirds or Bigfoot, or we get Black Panther sightings in the area, other types of strange creatures. And it's not only in Pennsylvania, but the question always comes up, where do they come from and where do they go?
Really startling to see something that large. But I also heard that they're harbingers of doom.
Lou DeRose is a lawyer and amateur historian. For this citizen of South Greensburg, it's not surprising that monster stories have a strong resonance here.
I'm originally from the area. I was born just north of Greensburg, and I've been here 45 years. I'm involved in the Westmoreland County Historical Society. I'm the past chair of that group. I've written a book about the history of Greensburg. I've written some other chapters about local history and things like that. Well, we're good, adventurous stock. You know, the Scotch-Irish were adventurous and hardworking and eager to take on new challenges, and I think their descendants and all of us just sort of adopted that philosophy. You know, oh, this is interesting. You know, what happened here? What, a Bigfoot sighting? Let's go find that guy. A UFO sighting? Let's go out and sit out in the woods for, 40 years and see if there's another one. I think it's terrific.
The belief in this mythical bird is nothing new for the First Nations of Pennsylvania.
My name is Christian Allen. My native name is Kalista Ndakwa. I'm of mixed heritage, but I'm a descendant of the Sewickley Sept of the Shawnee. For my people, the Thunderbird is the gatekeeper of heaven. It is something that watches over us. When it's here, it's flesh and blood. It's an animal, but it has the capability to disappear. I think what they saw would be what it would look like. For us, it would resemble a falcon in shape. It would be very, very large. It would be following the same paths, which both of the eyewitnesses, it was following the same path. So I think as far as their eyewitness report, it doesn't differ from what my people would believe that you would see.
The sightings all seem to converge on the same place, the forest of Chestnut Ridge, a stone's throw from South Greensburg.
One of the most interesting areas in the country is the Chestnut Ridge. The Chestnut Ridge is a 100-mile-long mountain range that runs from Preston County, West Virginia, to Westmoreland, Fayette, Indiana County in southwest Pennsylvania. It is one of the most active areas year after year for Thunderbird reports. And for whatever reason, that area over around Derry in Westmoreland County, along the base of the ridge, is very, very active. In this immediate area, again, locally over the years, I've heard people talking about describing me this loud whoosh or swooshing sound. They gave an impression of something big and flying close by, but they didn't see what was causing the sound. What's interesting is it's all within a couple of miles, maybe not even that far.
Yeah, I was standing right here on the porch, and the bird flew out from these woods over here, right over the hillside. And it lingered above the traffic, its wings out, and it flew up over into these trees here, and there used to be a big dead tree on that hillside, and that's where it landed.
It happened. You know, you can tell me you didn't see it. So I know what I saw, and I know what my buddy saw, and I know what my wife saw. And that's just how it is. It's a big bird. And not from Sesame Street either.
It has a great area for any kind of animal to live and breed and have no problem staying hidden from man, because it's such a wild area. A lot of forested cover, water area, a lot of good food source. So it's a great area for any kind of animal to really hide out and stay in and not really be bothered by.
But that bird, I wouldn't want to corner that bird. I wouldn't want to be in his food chain.
Return to the scene, observe the skies, and study the creature's habitat. These are the standard methods of Eric Altman.
What we try to do as researchers, if an eyewitness has a sighting at a specific location, we try to go to that location and we try to search the area to see if there might be physical evidence, feathers or maybe droppings or something that can show us that there was an animal in that area. I followed up on these reports over the years, and I believe that the eyewitnesses are seeing something. I don't know what they're seeing. Of course, I wasn't there to validate what they saw, but they're seeing something that they can't identify, and that's what I'm trying to find out. It's a challenge, but it's what makes it interesting is you know, just having that thrill of the chase to get out there and try to find out.
Eric Altman can count on followers to accompany him in his research.
I met Eric at a conference, actually. He was speaking about Bigfoot. I sat to listen to it because I really wasn't aware at that time of all the different sightings right in my own backyard. We quickly became good friends because he's open-minded and he likes adventures, and I'm the same way. So, and now I co-host on BTE Radio with him. And we're at a lot of events together. Just a great guy. You know, stories about the Thunderbirds over the past decade, 2001 to, I believe, in May 2014, there's been sightings off and on. Everyone keeps describing the same type of creature, a bird with about a 20-foot wingspan, black and brown in color. It always seems to be the same kind of a story. Someone's out alone walking or riding a motorcycle. There's no other witnesses but the one account. I am a skeptic. I've never personally had somebody tell me an account of seeing the Thunderbirds, but I've read a lot of different stories, and I came down here to Greensburg to see for myself what the area is all about. I want to have the proof before I make a decision on what's being seen and told about. I believe they're seeing something, but without me being there and just getting bits and pieces, I can't say for sure what it is.
Before entering Chestnut Ridge, Altman motivates his troops and organizes the hunt for the Thunderbird.
Basically what we're going to do is try to come up with an area where there have been a lot of sightings at and check that area out, see if we can find anything. And it seems like the best area to go to would be what makes sense, South Greensburg, because that's where Joe's had his sighting at. And what Christian was explaining is where a lot of the burial mounds seem to be, and there have been sightings in the last decade. So that might be our best bet.
People think that this is all populated area. They think that, you know, it's all urban area, suburban area, and there's no way big animals could hide out.
Oh, you go down to Slickville, it's all mines.
Yeah.
Slickville, there's mines everywhere down there, open mines everywhere down there.
But for today's outing, we're taking some very basic, simple equipment with us. A pair of binoculars so we can keep an eye on the trees and the sky in case we do see something. A GPS so we can map our coordinates. If we want to return to that area, we'll know if we did find anything. And of course, the 16-foot tape measure, so if we do find anything, we can document what we do find as far as evidence. And if we do need to return to the area, we can return with a DNA kit and collect whatever physical evidence we can collect. Well, of course, we want to document it on video camera and hopefully get some pictures of it. And
probably get a picture of me running and screaming.
We'll get the gear packed up and we'll be ready to roll.
I am scared, but it still drives me out in the forest to look for things.
Sneaking along the ridges, looking for sign, basically. Look for feeding area, bones, anything like that. There's a couple different ways to go in down here. If you cut straight down this road and swing to the left, that'll take you right to the wetlands. You can cut up the trail to the ridge and go out that way and down too.
For Christian Allen, there is no doubt that they are on the very edge of the Thunderbird's habitat.
As far as what we look for today, we were basically hunting a flesh and blood creature. And this is a place where a lot of people don't even know it's here. And it has a lot of food and cover for such a creature to exist.
But Eric Altman and his friends are not the only ones interested in the winged creature.
My name is Brian Shima. I'm the Conservation Director for the Audubon Society of Western Pennsylvania. The organization was founded in 1916. The mission of the Audubon Society of Western Pennsylvania is to educate and connect people to the natural world. I oversee much of our operations, daily operations. I oversee all of our conservation work, and I am the resident bird expert. Pennsylvania, as you know, there's a lot of diverse habitats in Pennsylvania. We actually have a lot of flowing water, actually more miles of stream than any other state in the lower 48 states. A lot of individual interesting habitats exist within Pennsylvania. Largest bird in Pennsylvania is bald eagle. Their wing spread is right around between 6 and 6.5 feet. You know, they have the iconic white head and white tail when they're mature. When they're immature, the bird's all brown. So bald eagles are actually confused with a lot of other species, but it is the largest bird that we have in Pennsylvania. We're actually also a mixing zone for when speaking specifically of birds. We have a number of northerly breeding birds that exist in Pennsylvania, as well as a number of southerly breeding birds in Pennsylvania. So we're kind of a mixing zone for two different groups of birds that prefer different latitudes.
We try to piece together the puzzle, so to speak. We want to see if there's more information out there than just that eyewitness story. And we want to try to find out what they saw too. If something like that's still around, it'd be the find of a century.
No person has been injured or killed by a Thunderbird in Pennsylvania. And despite its intimidating size, we shouldn't fear it. So says Christian Allen, at least.
Like I said, it's an omen, it's a good omen. It means they're being taken care of. It's not something to be frightened of. They also come with storms. If there's a storm coming, like a really bad storm, you'll see them. They're warning you, batting hatches, it's coming. They come out of water, which is another good thing because they can always come out of clean water, and we all need that. So it could be something to lead you to water. As you can see, it's clean. This water's, all you need is a few drops of bleach and to boil it and you can drink it. Yeah, you can see there's some fish there.
Yeah.
Creek chubs.
Actually, we would hope to, if we were being noisy, to flush something out. Maybe startle something that it would take off. You never know. Just looking. You would think in one of the higher up trees, like the tree out there, they would find a larger, flatter tree and put a nest up in that area there, but it's anybody's guess. We don't even know if they nest in trees.
But according to Brian Shima, the searches conducted by Eric Altman are likely to be unsuccessful.
If that bird existed in a populated area, I think everyone would agree that someone like me would know about it overnight. The sightings would come to our organization. We are the bird experts in Western Pennsylvania. We are the bird conservation organization for Western Pennsylvania.
And where we saw it, It was kind of in line, flying in line with the trail, but about 100 yards to the left, right down the road. And that was pretty neat. But I mean, the fact that you saw one right up the road and then there was another one seen right up the road there, that's kind of too much of a coincidence in the same area for not to be something to it.
People that see what they think might be a Thunderbird could very well be the perspective that they're viewing from. It could be a very large bird. You know, it could be a red-tailed hawk. It could be a bald eagle. It could be a golden eagle. Each of these being large birds. But when looking at it from a certain perspective, they might not have a way of judging how large that bird actually is.
I mean, any kind of raptor, its diet's protein, and
yeah,
that's here.
Yeah.
See anything?
No. That's all such heavy swamp in there. I mean, you can't get through there.
I'm gonna tell you, I feel a little uneasy back here. Just, I don't know. It's pretty. I love nature, but there's just, I don't know.
Spooky.
Something here. I feel spooky.
Let's see what we got here.
It's a myth. You know, it's scientifically speaking, there have been no records, no documentation whatsoever of a bird such as that. There is really a lot of evidence that shows that it would be basically impossible for a bird like that to exist. If the Thunderbird were to exist, there would need to be a large enough population to sustain genetic diversity, which means many of us would be seeing Thunderbirds on a daily basis. Without that genetic diversity, that species would quickly, the diversity would deteriorate and the species would simply not exist.
Christian Allen doesn't have any elaborate theories. For him, the Thunderbird is an ancestral belief.
This is a recreation of, I hate to say this, but it's similar to like a rosary, so that you can remember your prayers. And these are things that you're thankful for, like this means family. And these symbols here that look like keyholes are Thunderbirds, the Thunderers, that are the guardians of heaven. It's very important to our culture and it's something that we today keep alive. But we believe it exists, whether it's flesh and blood or from the other realm, as these sticks would suggest. We believe it's possible that you can see it, and you're going to continue to see it. And like I said, it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. Do we know where he is?
He went in there.
Heavy back here.
Doe, fawn.
Oh, are you okay? Yeah, see, that's why I quit following you, right there.
I look for hair, I look for feathers, everything back. I didn't see anything like that. You know, so figured if there's going to be anything, it'd be around the greenbrier, the jag bushes. You know, I'd grab hair, grab feather, whatever. I didn't see anything like that. There's really no area that they could build a nest off the ground back there either. There's some buffalo grass growing back there in some of the openings. It was all laid flat in a swirl like this. And I showed her one right up here. But as I got in further, I found 3 different spots like that in there. Where either it's you would think a herd of deer, 4 or 5 deer maybe bedding together, but usually you'll see the individual pockets where the deer are laying, you know, in the grass, but I didn't see that. I just saw a whole area. So that's strange.
The ultimate goal of cryptozoologists is to confound science, to discover the unexplainable. And every little clue that brings them closer to that goal is worth evaluating.
This is an owl?
Looks like an owl.
I find feathers every time I walk, and sometimes, like, they'll be laying on my car seat, like, that shouldn't be. Oh.
Some tribes see the owl as an omen that someone in your family is going to pass. My tribe's a little different. To us, it was a warbird.
Okay.
And by this, they actually kept owls as pets. Naturally, if you're going to go to war against someone who's definitely afraid of owls, you're going to have an owl with you.
Okay.
So, a mile and a half long, I'd say.
Yeah, comes all the way out to 4 quarters. This little swamp here.
Today we got unlucky. Inconclusive. We got to look at some great terrain, great area, a great water source and food source, and sure could probably hide a large bird of that size without anybody being around to see it. Are we going to find it from just a walk out in the woods? No. It probably is going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of manpower, and just the right place at the right time. And we might get lucky, but it's just the luck of the draw, getting out there and doing it.
You can hunt turkeys because they're usually on the ground, but to hunt a large falcon-shaped bird, you have to follow that animal, know its habits. It would take forever, I think, just to come out and see one. I'm not gonna bet that you are.
So what did Joe and the dozens of other witnesses see? Did they just make the whole thing up?
I think that there are rational explanations to what people are seeing. And I think that, you know, through some education and through some awareness, we might be able to get to the bottom of what it is these people are seeing and how they're confusing the size of these birds with something that we see on a daily basis, like large hawks or large eagles. I think that the humans are curious. And I think that, you know, with technology, certainly the internet, if someone were to Google extremely large bird, there is a lot of information out there about various myths or real facts. I think that the human curiosity is oftentimes something that may lead people down the road of myths.
For his part, Stan Gordon believes that the abundance of evidence confirms that this is not just a myth. The Thunderbird really does haunt the skies of Pennsylvania.
I mean, I've been taking calls from the public on these sightings since 1969. So a lot of people know that there's a place they can report sightings to. I had founded and directed 3 volunteer research groups that started in 1970 and continued to 1993 that were very, very active throughout the state of Pennsylvania. We had a lot of scientists and engineers and research people, former military intelligence people, law enforcement officers who were part of our volunteer group. So we had trained people who were going out there to look into these mysteries. And it was our goal to try to investigate these cases, to try to find an explanation, which in many cases we did. But year after year, these incidents continue to occur, and not every case can be so easily dismissed.
Although sightings of the Thunderbird are concentrated in the South Greensburg area, there are still many skeptics here.
I mean, I've seen some large birds in the area, but nothing super large to where it's a supernatural bird. Yeah, it's almost as bad as the Mothman. That's ridiculous to me, the Mothman. Really?
And the absence of any hard evidence doesn't help Eric Altman's cause.
No photographs, no video, there's no evidence. And that's what, I can see the skeptic's argument, you know, where's the proof? Where's the photographs? Where's the video? Where's the we don't have any. And I have to agree with the skeptics. Why aren't people whipping out their cell phone cameras? Everybody has one. You know, everybody has, you know, the access to a camera on their cell phone or video. Why aren't people taking pictures?
But, I mean, we all had cameras. My camera was sitting right here, our phone cameras. They all had their phone in their hands right there, and there it was, and we didn't take a picture. Stupidity. We were kind of like just watching it, yeah? Didn't think of it.
People seeing something, yeah, I believe maybe they're seeing a bird of some sort. It definitely is not a Thunderbird. There's no such thing. It just doesn't sound right, just doesn't make sense. I'd have to see it. You'd have to catch one or kill one or something for me to believe it.
You have to have physical evidence to prove the animal exists. Eyewitness testimony just doesn't cut it. So Doug's right, you have to have physical evidence.
I've told Eric over the year, we've argued, I said if I'm out in the woods and I'm hunting, I see Bigfoot or I see something that resembles it, I'm going to shoot it. It's either I want to be a hero or people are going to hate me. So.
And they'll probably hate him. And with the Thunderbird, he's right. People are seeing something. What it is, who knows? But what they're describing doesn't fit any of the known animals or any known birds that are around this area. It's much too large.
I do believe in UFOs. Yes, I believe that there's creatures from other planets, because I think it would be absurd to believe that we're the only life in the universe. And you know, with the way it is today, they're discovering planet after planet. So there has to be life somewhere else. Like Area 51, do I think?
Okay, well, let me ask you this question then. If you believe in Area 51 has UFOs and aliens there, but you've never seen them, why don't you believe in Bigfoot or Thunderbird? You've never seen those.
Well, because for one, Bigfoot, you're always out there. People have cameras. The thing cannot be that elusive.
You don't typically see a Bigfoot walking down the street or a Thunderbird flying through the air. It's not something that happens every day, so it's not accepted by science, it's not accepted by the general public, so you must be crazy. So people don't want to talk about stuff like that. So they're very reluctant to report or share their experiences.
So many of these people were people who didn't believe that such creatures could exist until they had their own experience. And so many of these people have a difficult time dealing with it. Sometimes they don't want to talk about it. They're afraid to share the experience, afraid of being ridiculed. But some of them, it's a life-changing experience. And I run into this quite often.
Only a few people today believe in the existence of the Thunderbird. But all the same, this mythical bird has found its way into American popular culture. From fighter jets to car brands, the Thunderbird has left its mark.
It is a Thunderbird. I got it because it's a protector and it's going to keep my soul safe. That was why I liked this tattoo.
Ananemki, which means thunderer. And of course, as the folklore goes, the thunder and lightning that you hear, the rolling, the Papa Panawata, the rolling thunder you hear through the hills is caused by this bird flapping its wings. They believe that some of the valleys in the primordial days were shaped by this bird flying too close to the land and its wings swooped up the valleys. But today, it's seen as a positive thing. It's a very important representation of the spiritual world to us, and that we don't need to be predominated with the negative or the fear of it, that it's something that should live in you, edify you, let you know that life is good, and good is in control, and that you can relax and live your life. And that is what the Thunderbird means to us.
Well, I'm sure they've seen a bird, and it is a big bird when it flies. It does have a big wingspan, but I don't know what to believe. I've asked people around, and that's what they all tell me it is.
There seems to be a really good way of telling the huge wingspan of these creatures, something that you can eliminate some of the big birds around here, some of the hawks and blue herons and other birds. And a lot of the witnesses I've talked to, by the way, are people who have hunted, people who are familiar with the native birds of Pennsylvania, and they realize that what they saw was something completely different than what they had observed.
They saw the shape, the figure of what we saw and what's in our tradition, so it's the same.
For most of the residents in South Greensburg, the Thunderbird is an amusing legend.
If the Thunderbird is flying around here, he better watch out, because we have a big Boeing 700 plane coming into Latrobe 4 or 5 times a day, and it might get in the way. I believe in a lot of things I haven't seen, though, you know, on various levels. So who am I to say?
I do believe in Bigfoot and all those other things out there. I believe in UFOs and things like that. I believe those things are happening. But as far as the bird, I've never seen it other than the blue heron, so I can't really, and I've never seen either one of the others, but for some reason I believe in them.
People should keep an open mind. I mean, we are not going to move forward in time if we don't keep experiencing new things. I think you have to keep looking, you have to keep listening, and you have to keep paying attention until we find out. And we have science has proven a lot of things that people thought were bogus, you know? Science proved them wrong. So science eventually will catch up with everything. Hoping I live long enough to see some of it.
There's a whole lot that science can't account for or explain. And there's so much around us that we don't see, that we use every day, radio waves, television waves, and we don't see that, but we know that they're here. So what makes other entities, maybe if they're from another dimension, why would that be difficult to understand? I think everybody wants their story to be heard. And I would be in awe. Who am I to say that they didn't see what they saw? I wasn't there, so I would let them tell their story to me. I'm a safe place to tell a story too.
These things apparently go on all the time, but a lot of people don't know where to call or are reluctant to report things, and some people wait for weeks or months or years later, or they never report in. So there may be a lot more of this going on there than we have any idea of.
For his part, Eric Altman isn't discouraged by the lack of tangible evidence.
You would think if there was such a thing out there, that a lot more people would see it. We'd have physical evidence of it. We'd have video. Science would know about it. We would know for sure they're out there, like the Bigfoot. They're 8 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot tall. They're supposed to be a giant primate that runs around in the forest. Thousands of people claim they see it. Why don't we have proof of it? The Loch Ness Monster is supposed to be this huge aquatic creature that lives in Loch Ness. And hundreds of people claim they've seen it, but we have no physical proof of it, except for maybe some grainy video footage. But people still claim they see it. You know, how are these large cryptids surviving and still being seen without any proof? We don't know. And that's what makes our job even harder and challenging. We just keep going out there and we keep trying to find those pieces of the puzzle that are missing. And maybe one day we'll have the proof. It baffles the mind to think how such large creatures like the Thunderbird can fly around in our skies and only be witnessed from time to time and not leave any physical trace evidence.
There has to be some kind of population of them. And they are somewhere, and they will be found. Because they wouldn't be cruising through here unless they were within the area.
It could be here. I believe it definitely could be here.
Joe Meyer continues to look to the sky in the hopes of catching a glimpse of this giant mythical bird.
Since I've been hunting, since I saw that bird, I spend a lot of time looking up here and there too, especially when we're hunting up the mountains. Actually, anywhere, I look up quite a bit. It's in my head now, and I got a gun.